Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session with the Diabetic Desk. My name is Charity Wanyonyi. I'm a certified nutritionist. I have keen interest in diabetes. I'm currently doing my postgraduate on the same. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is food myths that are misleading people living with diabetes. So please stay tuned. It's going to be 20 minutes, I promise. I'm not going to take so much of your time. And let's start. So, why does this topic matter? Diabetes affects millions of people globally. That is above 589 million people currently. And in Kenya, the prevalence is at 3.3%. I don't know if there was a projection that by WHO by 2025 will be at 4.5. I don't know if that is the case. We are seeing a rising number every year, but while this often focus on medication, monitoring, blood sugar, but there's a challenge that does not get as much attention, and that is the nutrition myth. That's what we're going to talk about, from social media posts to advice from well-meaning friends. I know people mean well, family, and are constantly telling people, especially living with diabetes, such as cut off all the carbs, avoid fruits. There's someone here on social media who is telling people to avoid fruits. Yes, and only diabetic foods are safe. There's nothing like a diabetic diet. That's why you see them in quotes. Um, this myth can create, or most of the time creates, fear, confusion, and unnecessary restriction, which can actually make blood sugar control harder. I'm not lying. And most of the time it leads to nutrition deficiency, because you're skipping one food group which has a benefit that the other food group does not have. So today's session, I'm going to break these myths down, explain the science behind them, and give you practical real life strategies you can apply. And by the end, I want you guys to feel empowered to make informed, confident choices about the food you're going to be taking, or if you're going to advise someone who is living with diabetes, or you have someone, or you're a caregiver to someone who has diabetes. I hope this episode will really shed light and be able to explain to you some of the things that are out there. So we're going to start with the first myth, which is carbs are the enemy. And this is something that I've also talked about in my social media platform, that is Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Let me take a breath first, because this is actually true. Many people with diabetes think they should cut out carbohydrates completely to manage their blood sugar. The fact is, carbohydrates are the body's primary source of energy, especially for the brain, like I always say. The problem isn't carbs themselves, guys. It's not the carbohydrates. It is the type of carbohydrates and how much, the quantity of the carbohydrates you eat. Even if you're healthy and you're eating a huge amount of carbohydrates, you're going to have sugar spikes and sugar crashes. Yes, so refined carbohydrates such as white bread, I love white bread, sugary drinks and sweets spike your sugar quickly, very quickly. That's why I talked about sugar spikes and sugar crashes. Yes. While high fiber foods such as sweet potatoes, arrowroots, legumes, and whole grain releases sugar more slowly. So you'll find that, compared to someone who will have white bread in the morning and someone who will have sweet potatoes or arrowroot in the morning, the one who will have the white bread will feel hungrier faster than someone who has taken arrowroots. And for someone who has diabetes, he or she will have a sugar spike compared to someone who has taken arrowroot. Yes. So we're going to look at some of the practical tips that are there. So, what to do? This is what I tell anyone who comes to me and they want my services, and they have diabetes, is to choose whole grain fiber. Like I said, sweet potatoes, arrowroot, milled, milled ugali. Because for me, brown processed ugali, I'm really not sure if it's not really milled from home. Whole grain rice, Those are high fiber carbohydrates, and I've told you the importance of fiber. Follow the balanced plate model. I wish I had my plate here so I could show you. Half the plate is vegetables, a quarter of the plate is proteins, a quarter of the plate is carbs. And this plate model works for you even if you want to lose weight. It really does work. Pair carbs with healthy fats, avocado, nuts, or proteins to slow down absorption. Like I said, carbs are the first group to be broken down. So if you pair them with healthy fats or proteins, you'll have a slower breaking down, hence a slower absorption. So there will be no sugar spikes. Avoid eating carb heavy meals. Someone is eating rice only, or rice with potatoes in one sitting. For me, I always try my best to add fiber, but there's just a craving that comes with eating rice and potato stew, so you can just leave. So for me, when I make potato stew, I try to add carrots, I try to add peas, and try to just densify it so that I don't have a carb heavy meal. I monitor portions, so you should too. A small adjust to make a big difference in blood glucose response. Even if you're healthy and you're eating something in huge amount, you're going to have a sugar spike and later a sugar crash. I want to look at the second myth, which is honey or brown sugar is healthier than white sugar. I don't know who said that. Yes. So while it's true that honey contains small amount of antioxidants, all these sugars are processed similarly by the body and they all raise blood sugar. So using them without measuring portion can still cause sugar spikes. That's why the truth I have bolded it. The body processed honey, brown sugar, jaggery, and white sugar almost the same. So the glycemic, the glycemic index is how fast the food you've eaten raised your blood sugar. Glycemic load is the overall impact of the food you've eaten on your blood sugar. So whether it's brown sugar, whether it's honey, it's going to have the same glycemic impact compared to the type. Mtu anaambiwa ongeza hii juice healthier and all that. So honey contain antioxidant. It has its own benefit but does not reduce the effect, that is the glycemic effect on your blood sugar. So use them sparingly with awareness. So this next slide, use practical guide. WHO recommends 10 teaspoons of free sugar, but for you who has uncontrolled blood sugar, please limit or stay away from it if you cannot. Switch from sweetened beverage to water, lemon infused water, or unsweetened tea. We have hibiscus, we have the chamomile tea, we have the green tea. Use sugar in controlled measured amount rather than eyeballing. I know Africans we eyeball, so for me, I usually tell them if you're going to eyeball the portions, please don't use them. Measure, we have the measuring spoons, measuring cups, use them effectively. Choose whole fruits instead of adding sweeteners to meals. For me, I 100% prefer whole fruits. If you give me a blended, I blend sometimes, I make smoothies. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you also have to know the amount you're eating, because when you blend the fruits, blend the sugar, you're freeing them, which makes them even more dangerous. So please use whole fruit instead. And if cravings persist because you're human, please pair the treat with protein or fiber to reduce the sugar spikes I'm talking about, that is hyperglycemia. So how to eat fruit safely? Opt for high fiber fruits such as apples, pears, oranges, berries, and the oranges, not the pixie ones. The pixie ones are too sugary. Berries, pawpaw, guava, but still remember, fruits still have sugar and they still have a glycemic impact or effect on your body. So look at the low glycemic index fruits that I've mentioned and stay clear of the high glycemic fruit such as pineapple, very ripe pineapple, very ripe watermelon, ripe bananas, the sweet bananas especially, and very ripe mangoes. So the best timing is with meals or immediately after meals to slow down sugar absorption. Stick to one or two sugar serving, fruit serving per day. Space them out. Sometimes diabetic people are telling us, umetukataza tusikule fruit, tunataka tukule nini? Space them and target the low GI fruits, green apples, pears if it's in season, oranges, avoid pixie. Pixie ziko na sukari. Stick to one um or to avoid blending like I said, because it removes fiber and raises the glycemic index of that fruit that you're trying to. I want to look at the fourth myth, which is rice, chapati, and ugali should be cut out or avoided completely. So these are culturally staple food in Kenya, especially the ugali, especially the chapatis and rice. And they're often labeled as bad food. And the reality is the issue is not the food, it's the portion, like I said, the combination, yes, and the cooking method, which makes them labeled as bad food. Yes. So a diabetic friendly diet, when eaten in the right portion and combined with vegetables and proteins, really do well. So if you go for alma ata, you eat half a chapati, that is one serving, and you have your boiled chicken and you have your steamed vegetables, you have your plate model there. Yes, because I feel like we try to adopt the Western guidelines, the Western culture, and most of us try to eliminate the culturally relevant food, which causes frustration for these people living with diabetes because that is what we grew up eating. So when you tell them to remove them, it increases their frustration and their non-compliance and non-adherence. So these foods, when eaten in balance, can be incorporated into the diet they're supposed to, the diabetic diet. For me, I call it a healthy diet, replacing quantity with quality to enhance sustainable habit. Yes. So practical cultural plate models. So for the rice, brown. I know it takes time and cook it well because I've gotten feedback from people living with diabetes. The brown rice, if not cooked well, it's really tasteless and really bad. Add lentils. I love lentils, guys. I never knew I would love it before I started incorporating it into our meal plan, and it's really good, easy to cook at a faster time. It's really good. Beans, vegetables, chapatis. I choose a smaller piece, pair with high fiber sides. Like in Kenya, we really like our beans. Beans, there's a portion, so you have to look at the portion. That's why it's good to visit a certified nutritionist to be able to calculate the type of and the amount of carbs in this food so that you can know how to pair them properly. Ugali, choose brown ugali or mix. For me, I usually tell them to go and mill it. Because when you process it, you remove the outer cover which has the fiber, but if you mill everything, so the ugali still has the fiber and it helps reduce the sugar spikes. Fish, chicken, legumes, add traditional vegetables such as managu. I feel like, guys, we should go back to our indigenous foods, indigenous vegetables, indigenous fruits, managu, kunde, terere, and I'm glad when I go to the market, I see a lot more people buying the traditional vegetables because I feel like the more vegetables on your plate, the lower the blood sugar spikes. I want to look at the fifth myth, which is diabetic or sugar-free foods are always safe. And this is how the market gimmicks usually capture these people, soda-free, sugar-free, or whatever. I really marketing often mislead people. Diabetic friendly, it's quite sad. So many products contain hidden sugars or sugar alcohol. Sugar alcohols are inositol, sorbitol that can still affect blood sugar or cause bloating. So some sugar-free foods are high in unhealthy fats and additive to make it more palatable. So you have to really look at that. So always read. We're going to look at this in the next slide. Relying on packaged snacks increases cravings and reduce nutrient intake. So I know most of us, especially in the Kenyan market, since that report, I'm really skeptical about buying things from the supermarket. So for me, I usually go straight to the cereal shops or the market to get my food. Yes. So what you can do instead of diabetic food. That's why it's in quote, focus on minimally processed natural food. That's why, like I said, for me, I go straight to the cereal shops. I go straight to the mama mboga. I have my own mama mboga. I just call her and tell her nipake. When I get there, it's just paying, and I wish they do deliveries. I am really avoiding to go to the supermarket since that report came out. Reading labels carefully. Look for total carbohydrate, sugar, alcohol, and serving size. There's a video I talked about how to read the labels on my social media platform. I don't know if I should add on the article or I should post here. I don't know. Snacks idea: nuts, Greek yogurt, boiled eggs, roasted, and boiled eggs makes the best snacks. Just sprinkles your flax seeds or your sunflower seeds, roasted them, crush them, and it makes a really good snack. Vegetable sticks, cucumber, carrots, tomato sticks. They really make good snack ideas. Low glycemic foods such as beans, lentil seeds. I think I'll also do a video where we'll do the high glycemic index food, low glycemic index food, and the medium glycemic index food. But this video I'll post it on my social media platform, that is Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So be on the lookout. Aim for food that nourishes, not food that simply claims to be diabetic friendly. That's why it's so good to work and work with your nutritionist to be able to help and guide you. We are very realistic. So we're going to look at the final myths, I hope. Skipping meals help lower blood sugar or helps with blood sugar control. So many people intentionally skip meals hoping to reduce the sugars, especially when it comes to intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet. But I'll have another session to just purely talk about that, especially after we are done with the diabetic awareness series. I'm going to really dive deep into the intermittent fasting and the keto and its relation with insulin, prediabetes, and diabetes. So I feel like for me, skipping meals is an can cause hypoglycemia, rebound overeating, and blood sugar spikes later on. Because if you skip meals, you're going to tell your body, you need to start reserving because there's starvation coming. So when you get food, you're going to overeat. Yes. So do the fasting with a guided medical help. That's what I don't really dismiss because I've seen some upcoming studies on the same, and there are some people who really need them, so they work for them. So I really don't dismiss that much. So irregular eating pattern confuses the body and makes sugar management harder. Consistency supports stable glycemic control and balanced appetite cues. I talked about the appetite hormones. Those are the ghrelin and the leptin. So if you confuse those two, it will lead to overeating because one signal lost is another signal being told, I'm hungry and you're full. So it's really bad. That's why insulin resistant. Those things they really interest me and intrigue me. That's why I talk about them. I'm going to go back to creating videos on the same. So what does balanced eating really looks like? Um, I know this is what is out there in the guidelines, but for me, we are looking into personalized nutrition. So this is not written by the books. If you do a personalized assessment and you see a structured meal does not work for your client, please adjust it to their lifestyle. Please, that is why I'm insisting. Um, if the person works an odd hours, please adjust it to those an odd hours, but make sure they don't stay a long period of time without eating. Meal timing consistent, the same. But if you a person who can sustain this, then could eat at consistent times. Include proteins in every meal because it slows down glucose absorption. Add healthy fats, avocado, nuts, olive oil. Add them because they really help with satiety, and that I can attest to. And it really keep at bay those sugar cravings. And sugar cravings are the worst, guys. So avoid prolonged fasting unless medically supervised. So this is what, according to me as a professional, it looks like. But we will do an assessment for you and come up with something that works for you. So this is just not set in stone. I want that to be the key takeaway from this slide. Don't quote me. I have really explained. Yes. So the key takeaways is I feel like myth creates anxiety, and I feel like the facts being broken down and being told build sustainable, confident eating habits and a positive relationship with food. Cultural food can fit into a diabetic friendly lifestyle with the right balance. Work with your nutritionist, your dietitian, let them help because we are in the African setting. Some foods we can really not avoid. And that is what I keep on talking about in this diabetic desk platform and diabetic desk series. Sustainability or stability comes from portion, timing and plate composition, not extreme restriction. Hata weka mtu akikurestrict from eating anakuambia usikule usikule. That's why we are shifting from that type of conversation to what actually works. So at the diabetic desk, I am committed to providing evidence-based accessible education for you guys. So follow the diabetic desk every Friday on LinkedIn at Charity Wanyoni. There's an article out every Friday on my other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I have my insulin resistance sensitivity series where we break down insulin resistance one step at a time so that we can reduce the risk of pre-diabetes, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. So thank you so much for tuning in. Contact me, let's collaborate, let's create awareness. This is my number, this is my email address. I'm open to partnering. If you need me to be a guest speaker, if you need me to work with you, I'm here and available. Until next time of the news. Bye.